Thank you for listening and welcome to the Life Podcast, a proud member of the Eventide Entertainment Podcast Network. I'm your host, Don Smith. Michael Moore sticks around as guest co-host for this election night exclusive episode. George Haddix makes his his first appearance on the show. If you enjoy the show, like and follow the Life 1069 on Facebook and Don Smith Comedy on Twitter, or tune in live on Tuesdays from 7 to 9 p.m. on WWSU 106.9 FM, or you can stream the show live at wwsu1069.org.
The brutal presence overwhelms me. The brutal presence overwhelms me.
You live here?
Yes.
Or maybe you know what a zombie is.
When a person dies and is buried, it seems there's certain voodoo priests who have the power to bring him back to life.
How horrible.
It's worse than horrible because a zombie has no will of his own. You see them sometimes walking around blindly with dead eyes, following orders, not knowing what they do, not caring.
You mean like Democrats?
All right. I had to throw it's election day. I had to throw that. Some old Bob Hope right there. I had to throw that out there.
I'll allow that.
All right, I appreciate that.
I didn't.
We're back on the Live Radio Show. I'm your host, Don Smith. Michael Moore still sitting around as our fantastic guest co-host, doing the Lord's work right here today.
That couldn't be any further from the truth.
Well, not that Lord. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
What Lord?
Gay Lord.
Gay Lord.
George Haddix.
Yes, sir.
Is here as well.
I am.
Yeah, you said this is your first official radio show. Now you said something about a podcast.
Yeah,
there's a difference.
Yes, definitely. That's
we're live on the air.
Radio show,
podcast. You throw some profanity out there, they can absorb it.
Yes.
Here, it's a no go.
Well,
it's a no go because we're actually. This is the second week in a row, I believe, that the directors of the station have decided to have their meeting out there while listening to my show. I think they're talking about me.
I hope they're talking about you.
I think that's
They
fair.
better be. Everybody should be.
If they're listening, I've got notes.
Well,
okay.
Well, it's getting Christmas time. I told you the first time I seen you, you look like Kris Kringle.
Okay, so is that what they're discussing? They're deciding what they want collectively.
Probably they're
Christmas. Trying
to get on that naughty and nice list.
They're choosing who gets to sit on my lap to tell me
Who holds that list?
Oh,
How do I
don't
get
know.
on that?
I don't know.
Mrs. Claus.
To sit on my lap or to have one. You'd have to talk to them.
All right, I'll be right back.
Yeah, go on out there. Even the GM's out there. That's how important this meeting is.
I'm nervous.
I guess you should be. I'm nervous. It's my job on the line.
Yeah.
They might
Are we
cut
talking
my
about
pay
all
in half.
these young folks out here?
Yeah, exactly.
Wait a minute.
They made me feel really old. I'm only 28.
Wait, is a bunch of kids?
Yeah.
these young ones out here.
Come.
Yeah, it's college radio. We're fully student run. They're all in charge there. You didn't know that? You didn't know that?
No.
What did you think
They
this
just
was?
let me right on in.
Yeah. Well, I told him you were with me. I said he's cool.
Well,
it's all right.
Well, so they can hear that. Well, I noticed as I came in, you can hear out there. Well, if they wouldn't mind, maybe bring me a hot dog. That'd be great.
So you're
now we're placing orders.
You're now placing orders with it. Is that an order for the GM? Do you want to, or just for anybody in particular?
Well, I mean, since they're your boss, I mean, they could always
whoever's listening.
They could always
whoever's listening.
delegate.
Nobody's bringing you anything.
I mean, they could always delegate to you.
I brought you water. You didn't even want my water, and now you're asking for a hot dog.
Well, I'm pretty sure I don't drink Nestle. I drink Kroger water.
You said this is your first time on radio. This is your last time on radio.
Yeah. It's just your first or your last time.
I hope you enjoy it.
Well, thanks. Better make the most of it while I'm here.
Yep. You got 3 minutes. All right, and this is shorter than your average open mic, and you blew it. No, it's good to have. It's good to have you in. Now, how long have you been performing comedy? I know you're fairly green.
I'm very green.
And I hope you get better.
I mean,
that whatever illness has turned you green.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that.
I hope
that you improve. And I hope your jokes get funny. No,
Me too.
Shots fired.
No,
I think my
I'm
mom
just
could probably do comedy better than I can.
Uh-oh.
I think the first time, again, I left before you went on stage. I'm no dummy. No, the first time.
Confidence, baby.
I remember this. If one day, if I ever have my own show, I'm going to remember this night.
Absolutely.
You'll be
Oh, believe me,
you'll be
we're
my
gonna make it
first and last
unforgettable.
guest.
No, I believe the first night you showed up with a pink cowboy hat. Was that you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
How
it
did
was.
that go? Because I don't get to stay for the Sunday comics often because
You just don't want to.
I don't want to. No, I'm usually gone all week. Like this past weekend, Saturday, I was out of the house from like 6:30 in the morning. I stopped by about 4:00 to clean fake blood off my face.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And then I headed out to the club.
Right.
So, and I didn't get home till almost midnight. So
Right.
I have a wife, and
But you don't like her.
That's
that
surprising.
Saturday, I was wondering if I'd still have one when I got home.
Right.
And then, of course, Sunday I had to get up and leave the house and do a bunch of stuff. And then the Sunday comics and the comics hang. I didn't get home till, of course, I left the show. So I got home about 8:30.
Yeah.
She was still there. She hasn't left yet.
Yeah.
So yeah. So far, things are all right.
Yeah.
Knock on wood.
Congratulations.
Yeah. But no, I don't get to stay very often. Tell us about the pink cowboy hat and the reasoning, the thought process behind that.
It was that's just kind of my personality. Is I don't really care what other people think.
Okay.
I don't dress how other people think I should dress. I've always dressed for me. I've had people tell me I need to cut my man bun and I need to shave and do this. I don't do it for them. I do it for me. I think
Right.
my self-image and what I want. But the pink hat actually came from a Luke Bryan concert. I went with my mom, her best friend, and her daughter. So I think 2 16-year-old girls.
So you got on stage and admitted you went to a Luke Bryan concert.
I did not admit that I went to a Luke Bryan concert.
I was going to say, because...
Don't worry, they saw the pink hat. They already
knew.
But it was more or less that I don't mind being, I don't mind.
I don't even know who Luke Bryan is. It just sounds like something with a pink
He's a
hat.
country singer. He's
He's
on
an attractive country singer.
He's not.
Oh, okay.
He was
So
attractive
not
until
really
he
a
made that
country
weird
singer.
face and made him look like Beavis and Butthead.
Oh, okay. I
You
missed
just-
that one too. Yeah.
One of those like constipation looks.
Oh, okay.
No,
Yeah.
I had that earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of, let me get this out of the way real quick. You kind of look like Andrew Zimmern.
I'll take it.
Like Bizarre Foods.
I mean, I'm
Andrew
not going to
Zimmern.
eat weird crap like
Oh,
that.
okay. I
But
was wondering who that was.
yeah, he's a
I'm not up on
host
all
where
the
he
new
goes around
stuff.
the world and eats weird crap.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't a
Eyeballs
bad.
and
It wasn't a
things.
bad. Like
No, I'll take it. I'll take it.
I mean, I was told that I look like Beans from Even Stevens. That's a.
That means nothing to me.
Well,
sorry.
when you
Yeah.
get home tonight, Google that.
I don't think I'm going
Google
to.
what?
I was told I look like Beans from Even Stevens.
Here, we're going to do it right now.
Yeah,
I
So
have
you're
a
going to
cell phone.
Google
I'm grown.
beans.
his name is
then-
Beans, and it's the most awful comparison I've ever been called.
Oh, okay.
I would rather be. Yeah, just it's bad. He reminds me like the kid off of not Little Rascals.
So
What
anyway,
was-
well, we started talking about
Yeah.
your
We went off on a tangent.
your budding comedy career.
Oh, that's upsetting.
Okay,
I don't think
I
you
got to see
do,
now.
but
Thank you.
dang, now that I see it, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying to make a bigger picture.
What was the movie with Alfalfa? That was the point I'm making.
Okay.
was that the
Yeah,
Little Rascals?
That was
He
Little
reminds me of the
Rascals,
little kid that was
our
like-
gang.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
one that like used to have snot run down his face and was licking the lizard and stuff.
All right, that's
Okay, yeah.
that's troubling.
Yeah. Anyway, how long ago did you start performing? What was that night, the Pink Hat night, your first
Yes.
time ever on stage?
That was my very first time on stage, and this the night I left. I actually left for Florida. I was just telling your co-host here. I was actually on my way to Florida, and I didn't need any coffee, pop, anything because my adrenaline was like on
from
being on
stage.
From being on
yeah.
stage, and I think I got all the way to Nashville before I really like came down from the high. And that was, and that I think in that moment going through Nashville, it was just like, this is I'm taking it serious. this is what I want to do. But yeah, that was the very first time I'd ever been on stage, and the first thing I told my mom was I would have been less nervous at Great American at singing karaoke butt naked versus being on that stage that night.
You would have been less.
I would have been
nervous
less nervous.
Okay.
That sounded
Singing butt naked karaoke?
Yes.
Interesting.
Now, where do you usually sing butt naked karaoke?
Yeah, I
In
would
the
also
shower.
like to know.
where everybody else does. I mean, I in my
so
car.
it's not like there's not like a bar you can go to
No,
where they have butt naked
not that I'm aware
karaoke
of.
night.
I mean, we are in Dayton, so
We
I mean,
should get that started. We should definitely get that started. I mean, we should only invite certain people.
right,
I
Yeah.
don't want to see you butt naked singing anything.
right.
Yeah.
So maybe if we went to school for the blind or something like that, that might work.
Yeah, there you go. There
Yeah.
you go. You might. Yeah,
But,
they might put up with it because they wouldn't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
but yeah, it was.
So in that case, any
Nope,
show.
it's just the microphone cord. Sorry.
If it's a school for the blind, then it's any show is a butt naked.
Yeah,
I mean-
it's only limited by their imagination.
That is correct, sir.
right. Yeah,
Yes, as I'm a supermodel to them, so long as they believe me.
that's still a stretch.
As long as they don't touch me.
Right. Yeah, no touching the performers.
Sinking their fingers into me like Play-Doh.
Oh, we just got disturbing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
memory foam.
Yeah. No, it doesn't stay.
That's a good point.
That's good. That's a perfect point. So, how high were you in Nashville? No, had that adrenaline rush. Is that just really what you're chasing here? Because that fades.
Is it because cocaine is expensive?
Yeah.
I've only done cocaine, not snorting it. I actually did that in high school. Only one time. I brushed my teeth with it. It was called a numbie, is what it was called. Only time I've ever done any illicit.
That's not what I call a numbie.
Yeah.
I call it a donut.
You call a donut a numbie?
Me and drugs don't mix.
I don't understand why you wouldn't.
Well, yeah, because you eat
Yum,
too
yum,
many
yum,
of them,
yum,
your
yum,
whole
yum.
arm goes numb.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, diabetes.
So, yeah.
It doesn't matter.
No, it's not diabetes. It's diabetes.
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 Yeah.
Somebody already does that. I need
Yeah,
to stick
yeah.
with just straight up using the right words.
Yeah. He's new. Give him time.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, he'll figure it out.
So, how long have you been doing comedy?
That would have been.
Yeah, so when was that show? Or how long ago?
That would have had to been like early or mid or late August.
So sometime in August.
So
Sometime in
August.
August.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
But I mean, as far as like trying to be the butt of the joke and being funny, that's been probably since birth.
Sure.
Well, yeah.
I mean,
That's all of us. We all think
Yeah.
we're funny in our
Exactly.
lives.
Well, I don't think I was funny then. I think I was just funny looking
Well,
when
you
I came
haven't
out.
grown out of it.
Well, thank you. I don't look like beans anymore. But I mean, yeah, I've always been, make fun of myself and to make sacrifice myself for others. I worked in the hospital, and that's where I kind of learned like that dry sense of humor, and learned that making somebody smile can make their day better.
Sure.
It can make get them out of the hospital. They're already in a in a bad way, in a bad situation. So just putting a smile on somebody's face, it really means a lot to me. And I think the more I learned to not try to be funny, the more funny I became.
Okay.
So when I
So
would
it wasn't forced.
yeah,
because when you try to force it,
And I
it's
think-
not really. Yeah.
and that's why I think going on stage, just kind of trying to tell a story, because all the stuff I've told on stage, absolutely everything I've said is true.
That's
Yeah,
the
sure.
best way
Well,
to do it.
that's what I was going to say. The best comedy is the true comedy.
Yeah. So, and I think that was my biggest fear coming in, is I started watching more comedy or comics that I normally wouldn't pay much mind to. No offense. But I
think
just,
he wouldn't pay much mind to you, is what he's trying to tell you. That's-
I quit.
I was just so
9
worried
years and I'm
about,
out.
I was just so worried about stealing somebody else's material that when I would talk to people, they would say, "Oh, well, talking about your mom or your family, it's not, everybody can do that." I'm like, yeah, but it's not. It's true to me. My stories
Yeah.
are
Right.
mine.
If it's unique to you,
Right.
if you're just telling the same old story, that's one thing. But if you're telling that same story unique to you, that's something else.
Right.
Right.
And the many stories that I have is straight at my mother.
Right.
Sure.
Still hasn't came to one of my shows yet.
Yeah. my
Now,
neighbor, but she's dead.
this fear of stealing material, does that keep you from watching comedy altogether?
No,
Because I know a lot of comics that don't
I
want to
won't
watch. Really?
I only watch the people at shows when I'm there.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't watch stand-up specials and stuff anymore because I'm afraid that it'll seep in and I'll end up using something that I don't intentionally mean to.
Because to me, it kind of, not their jokes themselves inspire me, just the performance is what I look at.
Okay, right.
And I guess I heard somebody say a while back that comedians not watching other comedians for that fear is, that makes perfect sense. Just like writers never read anything, or
I mean, yeah, sure.
or filmmakers never watch other movies. I think you kind of have to, just as part of working on the craft.
I think reading and making or writing like writing books and all that kind of stuff is just different. Like me coming up with an idea for a joke and then going to stage and saying it and then being like, "Whoops, that was somebody else's joke."
Right.
I think that's a different. You're playing with fire. Like
by watching comedy, you're playing with.
Yeah, I mean, just because I'm like, oh yeah, that was really funny. Like, because I'll even during an open mic or something, I'll be like, oh yeah, that's a funny bit. I have this other thing that I wanted to talk about in a similar fashion, and then I'm like, well, do I still try to do that bit then? Like it just.
So if you have something that's similar and you watch a special that has a similar thing in it, you would abandon yours.
Depending on how
close,
close it gets, I guess. Like I'm just afraid that because a lot of times I don't just sit and write.
Right.
It'll be something that comes to me, and I'm like, "That's funny."
Right.
I will write that down, because I have an awful memory, and then I'll go to stage with it and see how it goes.
Now there's something, because I'm about the same way, but I do write stuff down a lot because I'll write ideas down and then I'll kind of flesh it out later on.
Right. Yeah.
But I write a lot. That way, if I do happen to write something that's fairly parallel to what somebody else has, to me, whoever does it first is who gets it.
Sure.
Or whoever's been in the game longer.
Yeah.
Because I had one I did. It was about different charities and different, because it all started with an arthritis walk, because I thought it was kind of unusual that a lot of people with really bad arthritis. Yeah, a lot of people with really bad arthritis have trouble walking.
Sure.
So let's have an event they can't participate in. And the whole thing started off with a moment of silence for Tourette's syndrome. And I had this whole bit where I did like 15 of them. There was a triathlon. It was I think it was biking for paraplegics, swimming for narcoleptics, and there was a whole thing that I did, and somebody else had one that was very similar.
Sure.
They didn't do I think there was one that was real close, but they did. It was Mike Canistero, who'd been doing it a lot longer than me, and I know that we didn't get that from each other.
Right.
But at the same time, I stopped doing that material.
Right.
Because he'd been doing this a lot longer than me.
Right.
And was much better at it.
Sure.
And his was far better than mine.
Right.
Because I can't even say half of his on the air with the directors out there. If they weren't out there, to heck with it. But they're out there. So, but there is always parallel thinking.
Sure. Well,
and you run into that now and then. But.
Have I given you one of my business cards? I have condoms.
I believe when we first met, you
I probably did, because I bought 1,000 of them, so I had to give them to somebody. So, I have condoms with all of my contact information on them and my dumb face. And so...
this is not a made-up story, is it?
No. I bought 1,000 of these condoms and give them out for my business cards, because I always bought business cards and then threw them away because I never gave them out. But now I think giving out a condom is funny, and I do some condom jokes, so it all ties in.
Right.
But I had someone tag me on Facebook because there was another comic that was like, "Oh, I want to do this bit and buy these condoms and start putting my tagline or punchlines and stuff on them and stuff."
Right.
And so I got tagged on that, and this person was like, Michael's already doing this. He's already got the condoms. He's already had them made. He's already giving them out. He's been doing them for 2 years.
Yeah.
Like, so that's just it. I mean, granted, I had done, I don't know, 1 or 2 shows with that guy where I had my business cards and I gave them out and talked about them on stage and stuff. So I don't know how much of that seeped into what he was coming up with, but it was made out like he never paid attention to what I was doing, and and so he came up with this idea about condoms, and so it was just one of those situations to where it was like we both came up with this idea. I have it. I've already been doing it for 2 years. I've already bought them.
Right.
And so he was like, all right, I'm not going to do it.
Now, I've seen, I know there are some comics that have had, well, I think Travis Charles has one where somebody, there was a comic that he'd worked with several times that basically does one of Travis's jokes word for word. And Travis was actually at a show when he did it. And
that's
called him
nuts.
out on it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then saw him at another show doing it again.
See, that's something else.
Yeah,
that's next level.
That's some next level
That's,
crap right
yeah.
there.
That sounds like Carlos Mencia and Joe Rogan.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Go,
And I was a big Carlos Mencia fan.
I was
And
too.
that's when that was long before I knew that he was stealing jokes like that.
Yeah, me too. And that was
So-
way before I started comedy and all that kind of stuff. So.
I wasn't really a Joe Rogan fan either, but then when you start calling out, to me personally, I'm really upfront and I'm blunt and I'm real, like Cat Williams real.
Okay.
Like where it gets me in trouble.
When I look at you, I get Cat Williams.
When I look at you, I get Ninja.
Are you talking
That comment
Saturday
just
Night
messed up my
Live?
perm.
Yes, that's it. Nailed it.
That's funny.
But yeah, at my to my own fault. It gets me in trouble a lot. I don't censor myself, almost to the point where it's like I have Asperger's syndrome. Like I don't, not the, the facial,
Right.
but where I say what's on my mind, 100% of the time.
Is that what that is? That's Asperger's? Is that what that is? Because I must have that.
It's where you don't have the happy, sad. You're just like monotone.
Oh.
But you always sit kind of like the I've been watching The Good Doctor. He has autism in the show. But he basically, just says how it is. He asks questions, and he doesn't have any filters. He just says what it's on his mind, basically.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I am. That's why I told you before the show. If you ask me a question, it takes 2 or 3 seconds for me to respond.
You're just editing out the profanity,
the filth.
Yeah,
I know to yank the microphone away from his face.
No.
Yeah.
Directors.
There's a lot of filth. A lot of filth.
There's a lot of filth everywhere in this world. It is election day. All right, we're gonna
Happy election day.
Happy election day.
Not voting is a choice too, correct?
That's a choice.
It's a bad one, but yeah, it's a choice.
I mean,
For you, you probably shouldn't.
I mean,
actually,
We can't trust you. Don't.
I mean,
just screw it up.
somebody's gonna be mad. So why not I just sit at home and eat a Permanente
I had this discussion with my wife. It's been so long since she's voted that her voter registration has actually lapsed, so she can't vote now until she registers again.
Hey, mine too.
Yeah. We were having this discussion earlier this morning, and we were talking about the current president and that situation. Of course,
Putin?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I didn't vote for him. My entire family did. I did not. I didn't vote for Hillary because I did not like her. I voted Libertarian because I'd rather have a pothead than either of the other two. And we were discussing this, and she said, "Well, I didn't vote, so problem solved." I said, "No, problem caused." Because, there are a lot of people that didn't vote that probably could have kept this from happening.
Yeah, right.
But that's, it's... and then again, it could have just made things
You're not
worse.
going to agree with everything 100% of the time. So you got to find the things that you do agree with.
Well, basically, when it comes to Republicans and Democrats, I agree with about 17% of what Republicans say and stand for. I agree with about 14% of what Democrats say and stand for. So basically, I'm kind of split. This was actually the most split my ballot has ever looked because I was probably more than half Democrat this time, which is a rarity for me, to be honest. Most of my life, I voted primarily Republican. And I I've been too disappointed with them and everything they've done for the past several years. And I just can't do it anymore. And for governor, I couldn't vote for Mike DeWine because I couldn't stand him when he was a senator. I can't stand him as a governor. So, so it's right there. It's out there on the air now. If I get complaints, I don't care.
I mean, the only voting I've really done is American Idol, so...
Since I turned 18, I have voted in every election except for 2. And this includes primaries.
Sure.
Basically, one, I moved to Florida, and I did not register in time. And the other one, I had a radio show to do, and I had classes, and I had work. I think I worked 10 hours. That I just didn't have time to get there and do it. So I missed 2.
Yeah.
I don't think they missed me, but I felt terrible about not being able to do it.
Sure.
Because I do that every time.
Yeah. And
the reason that's the big thing is another conversation I was having with my wife. That's why they have a lot of levies in May in the special elections, in the primaries, because they know a lot fewer people are going to vote on them. And the fewer people vote tend to be the more the levies pass.
Yeah.
Because the only people who are voting are the ones that know about the levy and want it to pass.
Want it to go, yeah.
So they don't have a lot of levies on the general elections usually.
Sure.
So, and I always love voting against levies.
Yeah.
There have been a couple. There have been a couple that have been, I think, worthy of raising my taxes for. Usually, I pay enough. I don't want to.
Well, why can't you do something like where you can, if you just give them a percentage and I pay my taxes to what I want to pay my taxes for? Because my grandpa is a prime example, brought up a brilliant idea. Why should I have to pay taxes if I don't have kids in a school district? Why should I have to pay school taxes?
Sure, yeah, I've said that too.
Which
I don't have kids. I don't want kids.
Yeah.
I'm not allowed to have kids.
Right. So why not do?
You're not allowed within a
the government
50-foot
has
radius.
stepped in apparently.
So I mean, if you get like 3 point whatever the percentage of city taxes or whatever is, give me a list of 50 things that.
So you can cherry pick what you want.
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
And then you're going to see really what people care about.
Yeah.
And then I think all around that would change politics in general.
I think they ought to do away with income tax altogether. Yeah.
Well, yeah, yes and no. I mean, I like income tax. Well, I mean, I also like my Social Security before y'all baby boomers got into it.
Y'all baby boomers? I'm not that old. He might be.
Get out.
Yeah. I mean, as far as politics go, you can call me a millennial because
because you don't give a damn. That's what you're saying.
Well, pretty much.
You want to whine about it, but you don't want to go out and
there's a lot of people that are
stop
young. Like, I'm young.
So that's the millennial in you, is that I just want to sit at home on the couch, play video games, and whine.
I do, but I also don't work a 9 to 5
and actually do anything to change.
Oh,
but
man,
I still work a 9
I'm a
to
millennial.
5. All right, we're gonna take a break. I don't even know what song I pulled up here. I think I actually pulled up some Mr. Stone King because I haven't played him in quite a while. What's that?
You do this every time.
What's that?
I don't know what song I pulled up here. Go ahead.
And then I know.
Play the song.
And then I know.
Play the song. Play the song, Don.
Tell me what to do.
Do it.
Fine.
You have some pretty blue eyes.
You want me to leave you two alone for a little while?
Yeah,
all
sure.
right, we'll be.
No, thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
You got
I'm gonna
birdie.
get karate chopped.
All right, we're going to be back here shortly with the
foods.
Millennial Show.
you in me, the more your life is dead. You can run or you can't run. You can hide or you can't hide. You can run or you can't run. You can hide away. What's this I see? You're trying to hide away from me, away from me. Don't you know that you can run, but you can't hide away?
Move over, Jimmy Kimmel. Step aside, Conan O'Brien. Back off, Stephen Colbert. It's my turn. I'm Mike Shea, and every Tuesday on my show, Mike Talks Funny, I sit down and talk with comedians, actors, film fans, podcasters, anybody willing to get down, get deep, and get dirty.
I don't remember the first time I had sex. That was horrible. I didn't even finish the first time I had sex.
I've tasted what most comics want, and now I have to go back and eat the leftovers.
You're so brave for wearing that shade of lipstick on stage. Oh my God.
Think of Last Comic Standing, and Mystery Science Theater 3000 had a baby, and that's the show.
My online doppelganger is also a larger black man. He is Adrian Miller. All the top results are he's a professor.
Interviews with great people, not to mention all kinds of awesome new music every show.
Hey, this is Don Smith.
This is Scotty Mage.
Hey, this is Kevin Goatee with Comics Watching Comics.
Brought to you by Eventide Entertainment.
Now, you've been staring over that edge for hours. And people die down there. And dying when you're not really sick is really sick, you know? Really.
All right. We are back on the live radio show. I'm your host, Don Smith. I should have just kept the microphones on. No.
Yeah.
Well, we'd have had to bleep some stuff out. Michael Moore is still sitting in as a guest co-host. George Haddix is still sitting over there. Hi, George.
Hi. I still am.
Believe it or not, he's still here after the beating that Don gave him.
No, it was all good.
Retribution.
It was all good. We're that's the thing. People need to debate things. Mm-hmm. People need to give their side of things. It's got to be civil. Exactly. Yeah, I wasn't over here throwing things at him. But yet I was close. No.
Well, the thing is, this isn't recorded,
right?
So, yeah, sure, I'll take some more vodka.
Oh. Yeah, you need it.
Is that what that is?
What is this? Like you told me, there's a difference between podcast radio. They can't see what you're throwing, or
right? Exactly. Well, they can't see your bruises either. Which I learned a long time ago how to punch people without leaving marks.
You don't even have to do
use
that.
A phone book.
No, I heard you use a. No, it's called a guy I work with actually.
I don't know that we should be telling the college students.
You probably should. He told me you put a padlock. I thought it was a bar of soap in a sock, but he said a padlock. That's actually how Whitey Bulger was killed in prison. Dropped a padlock in a sock and go to town. Why that doesn't leave bruises?
Okay, wait a minute. You just said that Whitey Bulger was killed with it.
I
We're trying to avoid just bruises.
Right? Yeah, we don't. We're
Yeah, but
not trying to.
I
beat,
only learned this-
If you're going to beat somebody to death, I don't think you should be concerned as
I only
much
found
about
this-
bruises
this isn't
because
my
it's
own-
going to be
It's too
obvious.
late.
This isn't my own research. This was watching Joe Rogan's podcast. I found this out.
Oh, okay.
On one
Okay, so facts.
So, yeah,
But no,
exactly.
as far-
fake news.
The coworker told me about it. I've heard of the bar soap in a sock, in a tube socks, or in a tube socks, in a tube sock doesn't leave bruises. It just so happened after he told me this, I watched the Joe Rogan podcast and they were talking about Whitey Bulger. He got killed by the same thing, but I guess he was a snitch, like he was snitched or something. And that's
well, somebody just shouted "Kill Whitey," and
I'm pretty sure on the podcast, like the first chance this dude got to kill him, he took that opportunity. And they said his eyes were like out of his head and stuff. So,
oh wow,
yeah, I didn't actually do the
didn't
research.
leave a bruise.
Yeah,
Didn't look up the
Popped his eyeballs
autopsy
out of his
photos.
skull.
See, I always did it wrong. I always took like a sock and put like liquid soap in it. And then it didn't leave bruises, but it didn't do anything either. Just bubbles. They were just bubbles.
That's almost like my belly fat.
It just kind of.
It didn't like ooze out when you hit.
Just slap. Just.
You need a good washing.
Yeah. They call that slapping the socks, is what that is.
That's not what I call
That's
that.
not what.
Let me tell you what I call slap at the socks.
Nope. Let's hit some news stories.
Something Don's wife has never said.
Anyway, don't bring my wife into this.
Uh-oh. Fight.
New comics don't know boundaries.
Not in the least. Old comics don't either.
No, they don't.
So.
No, nobody knows comics.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on, we'll hit some news stories. A pack llama that escaped from a guided hike in the southern Yellowstone National Park in August was rescued by a Montana outfitter last weekend, just days before most of the park's entrances were to close for winter preparations. Susie Hulsmeyer-Sine with Yellowstone Llamas in Bozeman, Montana said, "I just had to help him. He was abandoned. No, he was lost. You run the llamas. They got away from you. You didn't have to help him. That was finding your lost llama."
Did you just read that?
I did.
That was word for word?
Word for word.
Whoever
yes.
wrote this got very aggressive at the end.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Interesting.
Either that or he's got the fifth grade reading level. It was written better than he read it.
You done? Anyway.
Just getting started.
Get out.
All right. Yeah. Insulting the host. That gets you on shows.
This is your blacklist.
Talking about his wife crosses the line, but talking about you gets me off the show.
Yeah, exactly.
Priorities, man.
Wilderness Ridge Trail Llamas owner Kristen Beatty of...
we're not done.
We're not done. But this one's done. You just threw off my whole rhythm. You are a terrible guest.
Yeah, you said I threw off my hoe.
You have rhythm?
You didn't notice that?
Rhythm.
I tried. I was really paying attention, but nope.
I thought I came to talk, not to do a short essay. This sounds like a...
You came to do a radio show, and it just happens to be my radio show. You also sound like you came to get kicked the hell out of it.
No, I'm just kidding.
Okay. I like my guests to be guests and have fun. I don't like my guests to turn into jackasses. This might be a first for me to just get this irritated.
Blood.
Oh, should we do some news
from
stories
your
here?
eyes.
An airline employee inadvertently fell asleep in the forward cargo hold of a plane and remained there for the duration of the flight from Kansas City to Chicago, according to American Airlines. The individual, a male employee of Piedmont Airlines, a wholly owned subsidiary of the American Airlines Group, was working an American Airlines flight on October 27th when he apparently fell asleep in the forward cargo hold of a Boeing 737 aircraft. The flight subsequently took off with a team member in the cargo hold, which was heated and pressurized. That's good, said American Airlines in a statement. The flight landed safely at Chicago's O'Hare International Airport at approximately 7 a.m. when the employee was discovered upon arrival at the gate.
Oh, this was an employee?
Yes, this was an employee of American Airlines that went
Just
ahead and fell
snuck
asleep.
up in there and took a nappy nap. Like, I don't understand how that...
I can see it happening.
See, but the thing is, though, like, those cargo holds and stuff are insulated and all that. So how he didn't just, like, straight up freeze...
Well, some people
Well, it said it was heated. It did say it was heated.
Oh, it did say it was heated?
It was heated and insulated.
Oh.
Yeah.
They treat their cargo right at American.
But not their customers.
Yeah, not their customers. They drag them out of a
No
seat
joke.
because they oversold.
Yeah,
But-
right?
I mean, as soon as you said American Airlines, I mean, you
Yeah.
lost me. I mean, it
Yeah.
sounds just like them.
That's
Yeah. They'll heat the luggage.
well.
but
Normally,
they'll
it's
throw
United
you,
that
yeah.
does everything wrong.
Yeah,
They're the ones that kill
that's
pets
the
and
one that
Well, and,
drag
and
people out.
Delta. What Delta?
Delta is Delta. but
Delta, I
haven't
like
flown
Delta.
in a
That's
long
what I
time.
fly with. Hey, Delta, you hear me?
I'm not.
I got vacations coming up, and I need to book
Yeah,
some
there
tickets.
you go, and you're plugging them right here. You're
Delta's
plugging
the best.
Delta.
It really is, though. Stop.
I don't know. It's been a long time since I've flown, so I
Although
really
I'm
can't
going to be
say.
looking into Alaska Airlines now because they do direct flights from Columbus to Seattle now. So
Alaska?
They have their own airline.
yeah,
I didn't know that.
Alaska
Is this
Air.
like the state? It's the state's airline.
Yeah. There's
Yeah,
just like
that's-
this one plane, and and it has skis, no
Alaska
wheels.
Air.
Place.
Yeah.
It's a small
Yeah,
company.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's pulled by reindeer because dogs
Right.
can't fly.
And Don's the
exactly.
co-captain.
Exactly.
Hey,
Ho ho ho.
thank you.
In the weird news world, there are two nagging questions, and this is one that's close to my heart.
Okay,
So I'm in all
gonna be
seriousness on
very
this
respectful.
because this is Florida news.
Oh boy,
Yeah,
That's where my family is from.
only in Florida.
I am not surprised.
I mean, West Virginia. Is there any state that I'd be okay to be from? No.
Alaska.
No, Alaska. Yeah, there you go.
My family
With their
runs
one
Alaskan
plane.
Air.
Yeah, man.
Anyway,
Okay, so I
and-
need tickets
and-
to Seattle.
In the weird news world, there are two nagging questions. Why is Florida so weird? And why is mysterious, quote, Florida man who constantly gets into bizarre situations? Here are just a few examples. Earlier this week, Florida man decides to turn himself into a human boat trailer hitch. I covered that story on this show. In June, Florida man was arrested for stealing a car, and police found a capuchin monkey clinging to the suspect's pink polo shirt. I covered that news story on this show. This is why this is such a great news story, because
And then it
it's
turns
talking
out
about
you
all
wrote this
these-
article.
I wrote this article. Last November, Florida man was arrested after he allegedly crashed his truck into an SUV just to prove an intersection was unsafe. Guess what? I covered that news story on this show a year ago. Since The Daily Show is in Miami this week, correspondent Desi Liddick decided to explore the circumstances that make the Sunshine State America's weirdest. In the process, she interviewed many guys who engaged in situations that earned them the Florida Man headline.
Yeah, that was nuts. So, like, you
I
know,
didn't see that interview where they did that. But,
it was funny, but it's just a bunch of crazy guys that did stupid things.
Right.
So it's to be expected.
That's
but,
Florida. That's
Yeah,
Florida.
yeah.
Bunch of crazy people doing stupid things.
Exactly.
Bunch of old retirees.
But you know why all of these crazy stories and stuff come out of Florida, right? It's because of their sunshine law or whatever it is, to where there aren't I forget exactly how it goes, but there aren't as many restrictions on what the press has access to. So, like, they get all this information from, like, the police or whatever, and they're able to put it out into the, out into the media, and so everybody picks up on it.
So we have the same stupid people here.
Yeah, it's just it's not advertised.
Just not, yeah.
Yeah.
We try to,
Yeah.
but that's just hype.
Well, I mean,
we
I
don't
think
need
Florida. I
people
mean,
to know.
any state or people that keep rebuilding after your house keeps getting blown down or washed.
Now, I lived in Florida for a couple years, and these people are true.
These were neighbors.
These were neighbors.
Yeah.
We had a guy. Actually, I managed a Holiday Inn while I was down there, and we had a guy fall through our lobby ceiling. Our lobby ceiling was 20 feet high.
Nice.
This guy apparently he was on something. He had to have been, and he apparently decided that the safest place for him to be while he was tripping was in the ceiling of our workout room. So he broke into the hotel. He broke into the ceiling of our exercise area back in our locker room, and he got lost crawling around up in the ceiling. This happened at about 3 o'clock in the morning. I had gone home about 1, and about 3:30, my night auditor called me and said, "I need you to come back in here." I said, "What's going on?" He said, "Somebody fell through our ceiling." How did that happen? I don't know. What happened, according to our night auditor, he was standing there and he heard a bunch of banging around up in the ceiling. Well, the second floor, right above that lobby, is our banquet area. So he thought somebody from the banquet department was up there moving stuff around. Then he started seeing plaster fall out of the ceiling, and a foot came through. And he said, and then some skinny guy stuck his head out and said, "You got to catch me." And he said, I ain't doing that. And this guy fell from a 20-foot ceiling head first onto a marble floor. Got up and ran out the door.
I was about to say, and lived to tell the story.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wait, it gets better.
It gets better. He ran out into the street. Now, our bellman had the police on the phone. He had police dispatch on the phone as soon as the guy stuck his head out of the ceiling. And police dispatch is on the phone with him about 2 minutes, or probably 20 seconds after the guy ran out. They said, "Well, never mind, sir. I believe he's in one of our cruisers." He ran out in the street and tried to flag down a fire truck that passed him by. And then he was able to stop the police car that was behind the fire truck, and he tried to jump into the car.
Into the police car.
It's like, well, I guess that saves some time.
It was Florida Man.
It was Florida Man. That is,
Wait,
that's the newest.
This is like
that's the newest superhero.
So just the story starts out with a Florida man. It's not like one particular dude named Florida Man.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, it's just all these headlines.
Yeah, you would
Florida
think
Man.
Florida Man. It's like there is one guy. Maybe it is just one.
Sorry,
guy.
my West Virginia came out real quick. I was like, man, this is one guy. One guy.
He's getting a lot done.
Exactly. That guy's brilliant.
Florida
He's
Man.
either getting a lot done or doing nothing.
He must be.
He's all over the place.
He must be a Gator fan then, huh?
Yeah, there you go. There you go. And here's the fun thing is the story I have right after that, which I'm going to skip because it's not that interesting a story. I'm going to get to a much more interesting story after this.
Okay.
But I'm going to skip this one. But just so you know, the next story actually starts out a Florida woman.
Nice.
So you know
he's married.
It's universal. Yeah. Well, it could be his daughter. You don't know.
Or that's my point. He's married.
Well, no, not necessarily.
Florida
Anyway, moving on. A spirited fling with an Australian ghost has ended up in true love for an English woman. In fact, the ghost just proposed, and she wants the living world to know about it. Amethyst Realm, 30 years old, of Bristol, England, said she has had sex with at least 20 ghosts since she was a teenager, but wasn't looking for a new relationship when she went to Australia on a business trip. However,
she wasn't looking for a relationship.
However, she says that changed on a nature hike when she came into contact with an apparition and felt sparks like none she's ever known. Realm didn't know it could amount to anything serious because she says spirits tend to stay in one place, but something amazing happened on her flight home. She felt the presence of her lover on the plane and apparently not stowed in cargo. She says, "I couldn't believe it. I was so happy and excited, so excited that we had to do something about it, so we headed to the plane loo, and well, now I'm a member of the Mile High Club."
There wasn't a ghost. It was turbulence.
She went for the ghost down under.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
If you're going to go to Australia, be sure to check out our local ghost population.
Holy shit. That was very good.
Yeah.
Hey, I appreciate that.
Do the knife. Do the knife.
The knife.
Yeah, this ain't a...
Oh, that's not a knife. That's a knife.
That's so good. I
Anyway.
have a friend that's Australian, and she's like, "That's English." I'm like, "No, that's Australian." She's like, "Don't you think I would know the difference between Australian and
I'm hoping I would know.
I'm like, well, it sounds the same. She's like, "It doesn't sound the same."
It's similar, but there's there's some differences too.
But there's so many weird... We call them sweatpants, and they call them tacky-dacks. Is it tracky-dacks or tacky-dacks? I think it's tracky.
Oh, that I don't know.
Tracky-dacks. And they call them jumpers. Like hoodies or jumpers. Like, they don't mean the same thing here.
Right.
No.
Yeah, over here you don't want to smoke a fag.
Yeah.
Or do you?
I don't smoke cigarettes anymore, so that's okay.
Great.
I think we're done with news. I think we can't go any further.
I do have a question, though.
What's that?
So before I came on the show, I mean, you see me walk by. So the first time I've ever seen the bathrooms for transgendered people, Is that what those
The
bathrooms
universal?
are? The universal? So is that for, like, are both bathrooms for men, women, and everybody? Or no?
Whoever's got to go.
Well, I don't have a problem with that. My question is one said only stalls, and then the other one said stall and a urinal.
Because it used to be strictly a men's room.
Both?
No, just the one with the urinal.
Well, there was a little kid that went in the one with the urinal, which is
Okay.
what I'm assuming before would have been the men's restroom.
Right.
So I went into the girls' restroom. So if I would have walked in on that to take a number 2, which I did, sorry for whoever followed me. Does that mean it's a female can walk in as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what universal means. Yeah, anybody can
Is
walk
that
in there.
weird? I mean, is that weird for some people?
Oh,
for some
sure,
people,
yeah.
yes. For some people, it is. When it first, because I used to work here,
Mm-hmm.
and when it first happened, I was in there one day, just standing at the urinal, and I heard a young woman's voice behind me say, "Well, this is awkward." To which I responded, "Only if I turn around." Because it's
That's
true.
legit.
It's like I'm just doing
Yeah.
my business.
Yeah.
Mind yours and keep going.
Yeah.
Right.
You're about to do your business.
I don't
Yeah,
know. See, I don't know
exactly.
how.
That's-
See, I mean, I don't know. I don't have a problem with transgendered folks, but I also don't. I mean, I kind of have a problem with if my kids go into a bathroom. I don't
have a problem with any of it. I just don't
why,
like to
Why do you
fart in
have a
public.
problem with your kids going to the bathroom?
Because
that's kind of weird to me.
No, as far as
Yeah,
like, with
eventually
the
they're going to pop.
They're
No, I
going
mean-
to explode into a
as far as,
very
like,
messy
no,
situation.
I mean, I think no, just as far as like with the female, like with females or transgendered in general, it does, or other guys. I mean, it's not that.
You're just
It's
saying the mix.
Yeah,
Right.
The mix is
I mean,
awkward.
yeah,
There
because
are
it's
some
weird.
people
Sure.
uncomfortable
and it's
with
not
that,
something
but,
that
yeah.
it's.
There's a learning curve.
Yeah, definitely a learning curve. It's just I don't because I like to if.
You like to
If there's
stretch
like
feet
2 or
out,
3, if there's
make
like
yourself
one,
at home.
if it's a big restroom, we're at a restaurant or something,
cooler,
and there's only like maybe like one person in the restroom. I give my kids that leeway. You know what I mean? I don't need to stand over top of them, and I feel like a weird, like I'm.
Because that'd be weird.
Yeah, well, so but if there's like like if there's men standing in line, I stand with my kids then, and I kind of hang back.
Right.
So I mean, I don't know how I feel. Like, it's just weird. I think just having a female in there would be weird. Like I don't want to see like if you were menstruating. I don't want to see all that. I know what it is.
We don't need to talk about that.
But I'm
It's
just
okay, it's okay.
yeah. So I mean, I don't. It's just weird. It was different.
Just a thing. Just a thing.
And I definitely don't want some beautiful woman walking into the same restroom
While you're painting the walls.
Where
I
you
got
just,
you.
yeah,
when
where
I'm
you
taking
just
when
released
I'm
the
taking a
tiger
3 and
and-
5 rounds to the Super Bowl. So for my own protection,
Yeah.
you know what I
Yeah.
mean.
You just
She might
just,
think I'm handsome, and then when I come out, she
She
I look
doesn't.
like this, and she looks at me like him.
Well, the only advice I can give in that situation is just remember to wash your hands.
Always.
Okay, we are out of time. Do we have any shows coming up that we want
I
to
do
promote
not.
before me either? Okay. Get out this weekend to Wiley's for a super dope comedy show. Dan Seabury hosting, a lot of great comics going up. Be sure to check that one out. Do you have any shows coming up?
I do. I will be at Wiley's on Sunday, actually.
for
another open mic. Yeah.
For another open mic.
Yeah. I also actually I have a page also on Facebook. You guys can follow. It's at Mr. Faddix.
It's at
At Mr. Faddix.
At Mr. Faddix.
Fat
Okay.
X.
Faddix. It's actually
Yeah, we
Fat
gotta be
boy.
careful how we say that.
no, it's fat. No, that's really where Faddix come from. A guy I grew up, or kind of grew up with, went to school with. It was actually Fat ASS, but Fat Boy and Haddix mixed, and that's where you get the Faddix from. And I actually was going to go up on stage as Mr. Faddix, but
Yeah, don't do that.
I didn't.
I hate when people go up with other names and
Well,
stuff.
I thought about it, and then I said, you know what? I said Mr. Faddix is gonna be like my alias, kind of like how Gabriel Iglesias has his Fluffy. I think that's gonna be.
There you go.
That'll be That'll be how you can. When they say Faddix, you know what I mean. Faddix is on stage. If I ever get to that point, I'm not there yet, but
You never know.
Yeah.
All right, we got to wrap it up.
No stone unturned left on YouTube's. Find it.
All right, there.
You made me
George
nervous.
Haddix, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Fantastic 2 hours from you today, Michael.
You're welcome.
You are the man.
I'm a treasure.
Absolutely.
If I could kiss you, I
National
would.
treasure. Yeah. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks.
Tune in next week. Holly Schock is going to be.
Holly Schock.
Holly Schock's going to be the guest co-host
Awesome.
next week. Always always fun having her in here. So stick around for that. Tune in next week. Where am I? Okay, I'm playing this right now. We're gone. See ya.
Thanks for listening to the Life Radio Show podcast. Check us out on the Eventide Entertainment Podcast Network or wherever you listen to podcasts. Remember, if you want to listen live, we're on Tuesdays from 7 to 9 p.m. on WWSU 106.9 FM with a repeat broadcast on Wednesdays from noon to 2, or you can always stream the show live at wwsu1069.org. If you have suggestions or comments, feel free to email the life1069@gmail.com.
You done?